Hello, I'm Josh, and today I'm talking to multi-talented photographer Sequoia Emmanuelle. She often builds her own sets, makes the models' clothes, and then captures wildly colorful photos. Right now on Make It. Hey Sequoia.
Hey.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
I love your work. It is so fantastic. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do and what's your style?
I'm a photographer and kind of all-around artist. I do painting, set design. I used to have a clothing line, so I love, fashion and styling. And at times I do hair and makeup. I kind of like to get involved in everything. So I do a lot of art directing with my work, and I like to either kind of put everything together, or I like to also have my hands in a lot of the stuff as well.
So a regular Renaissance woman is what you are.
Yes, actually, I did grow up in the Renaissance.
In the actual Renaissance?
Yeah, I did. My mom was a costume designer and also a painter, artist, and my stepfather at the time was a genie and photographer, and he made jewelry and stuff like that. So I definitely grew up with all of the things that I do now. I've been doing them since I was really little.
How would you describe the work that you create now?
I like to create an otherworldly feeling a lot of the time, and I would say dreamy, surreal, magical. I love colors, lots of colors and patterns and shapes and graphics, and just really experimenting with making your eye dance and move and stuff like that. So.
And your style is really, really like remarkable and very clear.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever I see your work, it's just like very, very unmistakably you. How did you get to that? How did you get to that style? And what was the process to get to that?
I think that part of it is, starting at such a young age, like growing up with a photographer and kind of learning to develop an eye for things and having a perspective. I think just doing it over so many years, and also just photographing, like practicing and practicing and practicing. I think it just, with all the time that you're putting into something, you just develop a style. Like you kind of start doing what you're most excited about, and then that develops.
Seems like it worked out really well.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was looking through some of the work in your book, and thank you so much for bringing this, like just things like this one, I'm actually glad I opened up to this one, because this is one of those, the stuff that I like a lot personally, works really, really well and resonates well with me. Like this perspective of blending these frames together and the color combinations. It's just so much fun to see that it seems like you have fun with your work too, which is really awesome.
Yeah, I do. I'll actually tell you a little story about this shoot, because originally we had planned to do this amazing shoot with mirrors and like having all these cool like perspectives with the mirrors. But if you've ever shot with mirrors, then you know how hard it is, and you get like everything that you don't want in the shot in the studio. So it just was a disaster and didn't work at all. Yeah. So we were like, what are we gonna do? So we just shot on a gray backdrop, which is like something I hardly ever do.
Right.
And it was just like not what we planned to do. So I was kind of just, the model was gorgeous, the styling, like everything, it wasn't anybody's fault, but I just wasn't that excited about the shoot at all. And then finally, I got some inspiration one day, and I just started experimenting with, Photoshop and kind of the three-dimensional. I never did anything with a 3D concept before, so I was just kind of like playing around with it, and I ended up just loving it, and it became one of my favorite shoots.
Awesome.
And I find that happens a lot actually with shoots. Sometimes I hate it. I put it away, it sucks. Yeah. It's terrible. And then if I give it a little space, like it's like the shoots take a life of their own, I swear. And they kind of like start telling me what they want to become. It's this crazy process. And then oftentimes those ones I end up loving them.
Yeah. What other mechanisms or techniques do you use to try and get yourself like to fire up the creative engines?
I change things up a lot, so it's like sometimes I'm just relying on pure Photoshop techniques for a shoot. Or like I said, I'll go, like I live downtown Los Angeles, so I'm really close to the fabric district, and I'll just walk down there and I'll just like look in the stores and I'll find something and I get an idea of, I want to use this, and I'll make a whole story out of it, you know? So it's, I feel like if I kind of change the techniques that I'm doing, and then I'll get excited about that, and then that'll apply to like a different combination of techniques. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or
That's
with
cool.
like lighting, like I love studio, but then I'm like, girl, you've been in the studio way too much. Like go on location, you know, do something totally different. One thing I did, and which I brought to share, is because I'm so known for color, I was like, I'm gonna do an all white shoot.
Right.
And now how do I make that interesting?
How do I make that still, put my my stamp on it? Yeah. My stamp means color, and I'm gonna like take that color thing out of the equation.
Yeah.
But how do I still make it my own?
Exactly.
That is awesome.
And I don't like to be too predictable either, you know? Like just keep changing the game.
Right.
You know?
So you've got some of the photos that you brought with us. You mentioned you want to show them. Like, let's go take a look at that. I'm really excited to see some of the stuff you're working on.
Yeah, love to show you.
All right, super excited to be over here at the demo station, and you've got a bunch of cool photos up already.
Yep.
You were saying like how normally you shoot lots of color. Here's an image that is clearly not that colorful, and yet still says Sequoia to me. How did you do that?
I saw these photos on Instagram of this incredible studio that was super dreamy and surreal. And actually I saw it on like a Britney music video and like Chris Brown, and I just kept seeing this beautiful space, and finally I figured out where it was, and it's about an hour somewhere near LA. I can't remember where it is. The perfect opportunity came when one of my designer friends from Amsterdam, Bjorn Vandenberg, he said, I've got this collection. It's called Aphrodite, and it's all about, you know, this empowered goddess. She's really fierce and strong. And so I was like, oh, I know the perfect place. Yeah. Because, you know, it's Aphrodite, so it's the goddess Venus who comes out of the water. And so this water studio felt like such a perfect match. I didn't want it to be so literal, you know what I mean? But I wanted it to have still those elements of like kind of a modern futuristic Aphrodite.
The water, the reflections, like the little waves that are inside of there, it adds a lot of texture, but at the same time, like draws the eye right into the center, to the subject, which is really cool.
And one thing that was really fun about this shoot, I'm gonna just go to this one as well. I love how much space there was to work with in this studio, because like I live downtown LA, and I have a loft, and I get to shoot there, and I love shooting, you know, I live there and work there, so, but it's not as big, and so I tend to have to kind of confine myself quite a bit, which is, you know, frustrating at times, but so having this wide space was a little bit of a different thing, and I really enjoyed this one. Yeah. So I was like, what can I do with white on white on white? That's really interesting. What kind of like effect can I do? So I had some glass frames. Here it is.
Oh, okay.
Like I just had like an IKEA frame sitting there, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna
paint on top.
I'm gonna paint white, and I kind of mixed it with water, and then I kind of let it dry and scraped it off to try to get sort of like a vintagey feeling.
So it's like a shoot-through texture.
Yeah. And then, so as she was standing there before I was shooting, I was kind of holding it up and like just seeing like, oh, what does it look like from this distance? Or I had this netting that was sitting there, and was like, can I shoot through here, and what will that do? So I love creating sort of surrealistic effects. Right. It was interesting because I had to figure out how to shoot through the glass and the netting and get like the depth of field right, because my camera was kind of like, where do I focus? Right. And how do I not get the reflection and all that kind of stuff in there? Because I was using strobes as well. That was really, really exciting for me, the process of that. So I got obsessed, and then I was like, okay, I want to paint on glass again. I had these watercolors I bought for my stepdaughter, and she never used them, so I was like, great. I'll take them.
Huh.
And so I hadn't used watercolor since I was like a kid, you know,
Right.
so I was like, how do I even do this? So I just kind of poured it on there and like dropped some drops and then kind of
Swirled
started moving
around.
it. And
Yeah.
that was really fun. And letting the colors blend in together. And I took my iPhone and kind of started cropping, like you can see, to see like, oh, this is what the frame could look like if there's a face. And I love doing beauty shoots. I just love faces, and I love playing with makeup and stuff like that, and the colors, of course. So these were kind of all tests and part of the process of making that. And I had 3 different ones, and then this is how I was kind of rigging it together. It's pretty simple. I was like, okay, hold that up and let's see. So I just have her kind of move it around until I liked the framing. This was, I think, one of the first or second looks, so she didn't have like as much makeup on, and kind of as we went through, we just kept adding
layers of makeup.
Yeah. And this one was kind of towards the end, so my makeup artist just layered her whole face with shimmery, sparkly,
and this
reflective.
Is like lighting coming here, like some magenta on one side, some little greens on the other side, matching up with the color of the paint on top of it.
Yeah, because I love gel lighting. Again, it's like a paint, you know. So then I've got the real paint, the face paint, and the colored lighting. This is like the most exciting kind of stuff to me. Is again those layers of all the different elements. It's like it's not just straight photography. It's bringing all of these different art forms together and getting, experimenting and not knowing what you're going to get. It's like you're going to get different results every time. So let's see, is there another one?
So what was this shot was for what?
I shot this in September, and it was for a client, a designer from Dubai, OTT. We found each other because I shot their stuff in some magazine editorials, and then followed each other on Instagram, and then they were like, can you shoot our next campaign? And I was like, hell yeah. And they were like, we really want to shoot in Chinatown, but they couldn't be at the shoot. So they basically had this, just give me direction. I had to figure everything out. In LA, you have to get permits for everything.
Of course.
So I was trying to figure that out, and it ends up being like an insane amount of money, like crazy, to shoot in Chinatown for like a few hours.
Right.
So I had to start from scratch and figure out what can I do that's going to be really incredible, because I'm so excited to shoot for them.
Right.
And let me just start like whipping out some ideas. So I went to my Pinterest, and I was just looking at stuff, and I always love paint and textures and creating a world. So I was like, how about if I do something like that for you guys? I'll make a set in my studio. And so I painted on my wall and with metallic paints, and because I knew I would gel things, and then it would reflect, and then it would totally transform the colors, so I could easily have like the sets would change a lot more, even though it's just one wall that I'm using for this whole thing. So I got pictures of all of the fabrics and everything, and tried to match the colors of the things I was getting with the fabrics. I mean,
silver and gold, and
See here, they're layered, and it's more of like blues. But then I would change that with the outfits. So now it's like more of the red tones and all that kind of stuff. So it's fun. In the studio, it gets all crazy and magical.
Super crazy, super magical. No, I love it. This is great. I love all this stuff. This is really, really cool. Thank you so much for sharing your passion, your approach, your drive with us. It's been really, really amazing. Really loved having you as a guest on the show. And thank you, everybody out there, for joining us this episode of Make It Photography. And we'll see you on the next show.